Hi, this is Josh
And Jenna.
with Resort TV One, and we are here to talk about the topic that's on everybody's mind lately, at least every Disney fan. When is Walt Disney World going to be reopened, and what is it going to look like when it reopens? It's a big
Yeah,
topic, right, Jenna?
it really is. And Josh and I have been talking a lot about this lately. So
It's
everybody else too.
it's been a lot of speculation up to this point, but today we actually have some concrete information we really wanted to share with you. We've held off on making a video about this because it would have been all speculation. Now there will be some speculation in this video, of course, but we wanted to wait till we had concrete information. And today, Jenna, we have some exciting concrete information to share that actually tells us a little bit about what it might look like when these theme parks reopen.
Yep, we sure do.
So
Yeah.
before we get too far into the video, if everybody could please make sure that you're subscribed to Resort TV One. If you're new to our channel, if you're finding us through this video, hit that red subscribe button right below the video. Hit the notification bell to be notified every time we go live or have a new video. And what about the social media?
So make sure you're following us on all the social media. We are Resort TV One on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
That's right. So like we said before, everybody's wondering when the parks are going to be reopened. We've heard speculation all the way that they're going to open till June. A lot of people seem to think sometime in June. We've even heard speculation lately where some people said, well, they may not even reopen until 2021. So
Yeah.
there's been speculation all over the map. I think 2021 is the latest anybody's talked about. But there's been articles back and forth. It's all speculation at this point. But one of the biggest things, Jenna, what's been the reason people have thought about June has been the most likely target at this point?
Well, so a lot of people have been saying that Disney is accepting reservations now. So for June, not now, sorry. They're accepting them for June.
Right.
That's why they're thinking that Disney's going to be opening back up in June. Speculation again, but they are accepting those reservations. So
Right. So, they're thinking as we get closer, we'll know more, obviously, but they haven't canceled people's reservations in June yet. And actually, I saw on Twitter the other day, somebody actually was able to make a Pop Century reservation literally on Monday, I think, was yesterday, for Pop Century. And the website let them do it. So, we're thinking that if they really weren't looking at June, they probably would put some kind of a block in the website for that. But again, they can always change it. Safety's always first.
yep, for sure.
So that's speculation. We don't really know. Again, there's been no official update from Walt Disney World at all about when they're reopening. Universal has said publicly they're aiming for June, but they haven't set a date yet. So that's kind of where we're at with that. But the big official news today is that the Orange County Task Force met to finalize guidelines today for reopening of all sorts of businesses in the Orange County area. And of course, all of the Disney theme parks, as well as all of the area theme parks, they're all in Orange County, so they would have to abide by those guidelines.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, this was kind of big news today here in Orange County for sure.
It was. And, so these are things that all the parks would have to abide by, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that's all they'll do. Disney might choose to do additional things, but they would have to at least do these at a minimum.
Yep, exactly.
And we also had, Jenna, what about the mayor? What does he think about the reopening?
So the Orlando Mayor Dimmings, he stated that a June opening is more realistic than May because we're coming up on May here pretty quickly. So he's thinking June would be more realistic, which I was excited for because I was kind of thinking July or August. So, I think by June would probably be a good month. It's not too soon, but it's, not August either. And it's not 2021, that's for sure.
That's right. So I think that's the biggest thing is trying to kind of pinpoint that deadline. But with the Orlando mayor, I'm sure he's a little bit in the know about what Disney's been planning. Disney has a reopening committee. Obviously, they haven't discussed anything publicly yet. Florida has a reopening committee in the theme park. Presidents and Josh DeMauro and all the bigwigs at Disney have been a part of the planning, as well as the Universal people with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. They've been trying to organize this as well. So everybody, all these officials at all levels are meeting and discussing this, and these guidelines came out first. And that doesn't mean they'll definitely reopen in June, but it just means, that is something that the mayor thinks might be realistic. So without any further ado, let's look at the theme park guidelines here as that were discussed today by the Orange County Task Force. So we've got, first of all, you got it separated into two categories. You've got small theme parks and large theme parks. And obviously this isn't an exhaustive list, but this is what came out of the task force today. I did download this offline, some of the different websites that have been covering this. So, and you can see actually it was interesting. SeaWorld was left off the list, which probably should be under large theme parks. And there's a lot of different parks that probably should be on there as well that are not mentioned anywhere as well. So, but anyway, a small theme park, you're thinking like along the lines of, I wouldn't consider Topgolf a theme park, but like Fun Spot, things like that, the Icon Park where the big, huge Orlando Eye is, and things like that. Those would be small parks. But the guidelines are pretty much identical for both. You've got tape marking of 6 feet apart in ride attraction queues, which obviously that's a big concern for everybody because, you've got people standing very close in lines and could be very easily spreading and sharing disease there. So staff regularly wiping down surfaces at random. And in phase 1 and 2, phase 3 basically I think is regular operation or pretty close to regular operation, but phase 1 and 2, anybody who's 65 and older is encouraged to stay home just because it does seem like older people are more susceptible to worse cases of the virus and things like that. So that makes sense. But mandates, and these are the requirements here, you've got all employees required to wear face masks, hand sanitizer at ticketing, at rides, temperature checks for staff. It doesn't say anything about guests. We'll talk about that a little later. Temperature above 100.4 cannot enter. That seems to be the universal definition for what basically officially a fever is, over 100.4. All employees with flu-like symptoms advised to stay home. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of a no-brainer. Wipe down all railings and surfaces regularly. And then phase 1 is 50% capacity, which that's a pretty big deal. And then 75% in phase 2. And that actually carries over to the large theme parks as well. Pretty much, I don't see any differences here in the guidelines. So Jenna, what do you think about these guidelines?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think they're great. I mean, for opening and backup, like, I think it's great that the employees are required to wear masks for their safety as well, as the guests. I like that there's going to be a lot of hand sanitizer, anywhere you're touching something or, because, even right before the parks got shut down, we were finding a lot of those, but I think they're going to have even more now, places for hand washing or hand sanitizer. The temperature check is great. I think that's probably good because, some people go to work even when they are sick because they need the money, which I get, but definitely need to have that. And then the staff 65 and older, like you said, it's hitting the older population more. So, I mean, I think that's just smart as well. So I don't know. What do you think?
So I do think all those are great guidelines. I think Disney's probably going to do more than that. And we'll talk about that here in just a minute. But the one thing that strikes me is wiping down all railings and surfaces regularly. I'm worried that that's not really feasible. There's just not enough cast members to wipe down everything all the time. And there was, obviously this doesn't discuss this, but there's been, again, kind of speculation that would say that cast members wipe down ride vehicles between each, guest loading and unloading. That would take forever.
I've heard that. Yes. Yeah.
It would be really good. Don't get me wrong. It's a great idea, but it's going to really slow things down. Now at 50% capacity, it might be feasible because there'll be less guests, but
sure.
The other thing to think about is lines at 6 feet spacing. Lines are going to be much, much longer as far as like, not necessarily longer in length, but longer in, or not necessarily longer in time, but longer in length.
Yeah. So. Yeah. So I don't know if you saw this, Josh, or not, but just since we're talking about that, Shanghai Disney has come out with where they're, putting boxes where you're supposed to be standing, and they're bringing them way out of the normal queue area because, they don't have enough room in their regular line. So that was interesting.
Yeah, Shanghai is probably going to be the first Disney park to open, so it'll be interesting to watch what they're doing. One thing while we're on Shanghai, I did see on Twitter, one of the Twitter accounts that covers Shanghai Disney actually showed that they tested their fireworks last night.
Oh, okay. I didn't hear that.
So that's pretty interesting because actually one of the things that I wanted to talk about was, are there going to be fireworks and parades? When the parks open, are there really going to be fireworks and parades? Because obviously everybody's seen our live streams. You've been to the parks, the fireworks, happily ever after. That's the most crowded and that's the most dense crowds you ever get right there on Main Street. There's definitely not social distancing going on. And if you put dots for people to stand every 6 feet apart, you're obviously not going to be able to accommodate everybody, and the crowd control would be, even at 50%, would be very, very difficult. at that point. So the question becomes, do they even have fireworks, or do they just say, okay, let's open it up, let's open some rides, and maybe let's not do fireworks for a while until we feel super safe about having people in a little closer proximity? What do you think?
I think you're right. I mean, I think for the safety of the guests that they almost have to do that, or maybe they could, offer them, a couple times a week. The problem with that is then some people might be able to see them, if they're only there a couple days, they're not there. Let's say they do them on the weekends or something, you know what I mean? So I guess, yeah, if they don't do them every day, that
I
might
think
not be a good plan either. I
I
don't
think
know.
they either have to do them or not. I think they either have to do them
Mhm.
every day or not at all, because then what's going to happen if
Yeah.
they don't do them every day, then it's going to end up as, it's super busy on the one day or
Well,
two
that's
days that they
true.
have them. So
Good point.
that's
Yeah.
not what they're looking for either. So anyway, I think all these guidelines are really common sense and really what you would expect, but it's nice to see something concrete from, again, these are not from Disney. These are from the Orange County Reopening Task Force.
Hmm.
So let's
Yeah.
look at the obviously Disney World has a lot of resorts. So let's look at the hotel guidelines.
Yeah.
So hotel guidelines, phase one, housekeeping services are limited and allow for a minimal guest employee exposure. So they want to make sure, obviously, housekeeping is not usually in your room when you're in there anyway, so they can usually stay away from people. I would assume they'd wear masks in hallways just in case, with the as far as with the guests walking around. Mobile check-in has been promoted, and actually Disney has required mobile check-in, I believe, at least for June and maybe even later. So they're trying to eliminate as much person-to-person interaction as they can, which is smart. Why not?
It is.
So,
It's very smart.
so that's been something that has already been required. You have to get on the My Disney Experience app to check in for the foreseeable future, and definitely in June, I've seen a lot of reports of that. So housekeeping services only clean upon request or when guests depart. Obviously, they need to clean between guests, and they're going to need to sanitize everything. That's important for sure.
Hmm.
Allow employees to work from home if not playing a critical role. Yeah, anybody who's working like in a back office or something and they're not interacting with guests, obviously would be able to work from home. Only deliver room service to the door, provide self-parking, social distancing for all guests and staff. So maybe like, have anywhere there might be a line, have taped off areas. Recommended touchless sanitizer at every, it's cut off there. This is actually directly from the Orange County, so there's, I guess, some typos on it. I would assume at every entry and exit, maybe. Oh, there we go. It said at entry. Okay, sorry, I misread it. Increase cleaning services, additional sanitation services through cleaning companies. So, they're not just doing the regular room cleaning. They're actually going to be really working on sanitizing rooms, and then of course 65 and older stay home. So sorry, I misread that just a second ago. Yeah, and they definitely want them at the entry exits, and maybe anytime they've got automatic doors, that's preferable because then you don't have to touch anything.
That's exactly right.
So,
Yeah.
and maybe even lock the doors that are not automatic so that everybody just has to use the automatic doors so you don't have to touch the handrails and
The
stuff.
handle. Yeah, unless they have the sanitizer right as you go in, I guess that would be.
Right. And then mandates, you've got employees wearing face masks, hand sanitizer at the entry to be visible, so probably like right in the entryway. Again, employees with flu-like symptoms stay home. That's a no-brainer. Front desk sanitize themselves on a regular basis. Just keep wiping the counter. Cleaning all guest areas. Front desk utilize sneeze guards. That's something they've been using in grocery stores, at least around here. They've got plexiglass in front of all your cashiers at Publix and things like that. Remove all service items, glassware, coffee cups, and things like that, or maybe just provide disposable service items where you got disposable cups, and that way there's no issue there. Mini bars not to be stocked. That makes sense. Do not offer self-food services. Yeah, you wouldn't want buffet. I think you want to shut buffets and things down for sure.
Definitely. Yep.
You'd have to do like grab and go, maybe individually packaged things because the buffets obviously would be easily contaminated, especially if somebody sneezes on the eggs or whatever. I mean, automatically that's so.
Yeah. Well, you know what I thought about too with the food? You know how like you go to a fast food place like McDonald's, the burgers are wrapped up in paper, where at Disney they're not. I wonder if they're going to start going to that, where they're going to wrap the burgers up or put the chicken nuggets in a box. I don't.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, that might be even boxes for burgers. Yeah, it might be that might be the case because they anything they can do just to prevent germs from getting on the food as much as possible, I think is a good thing. So, coffee makers removed because those I'm sure don't always get sanitized as well as they should. Remove guest collateral items. Maybe those are like extra toothbrushes and things like that, or anything that's maybe they're talking about hair dryers and things. I don't know, except for the single use type things. sanitize guest keys before and after each use. And with of course, the Disney hotels, you've got your Magic Band. So that would be something, maybe the biggest thing would be sanitizing the touch points for the Magic Bands, which they need to do in the parks as well.
Yes, definitely.
Bell carts, no conferences. Yeah, for sure. No conferences in the hotels because usually those are over 50 people, which is you don't want any more. Actually, right now you don't want more than 10 people, but eventually
10 people. Mm-hmm.
be 50 people. So you just really don't want conferences, again, promoting social distancing. So we kind of talked through them, but any of those that stick out to you at all, or?
I mean, they all make sense, definitely. I like the checking in on the app. I think that's pretty cool. I mean, a lot of people were doing that anyhow, but that helps, so you're not in contact with the person at the front desk. And I'm sure if you need anything, you can call or, something like that. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, all these are great guidelines.
Yeah.
Sneeze guard, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that actually, the biggest thing I think I want to emphasize here is these, again, are not done by any company. These are done by Orange County, the reopening task force. And so these are minimum guidelines. I would imagine any, great hotel or even theme park is going to, again, add guidelines on top of this. And again, that's where we come into fireworks or no, and things like that. So before we get into a little more speculation, let's look at, again, restaurant guidelines, because Disney obviously has several restaurants. So this applies. Again, this one actually does have a typo on it. I saw it says restaurant, but anyway, so that's okay. It's all right. But this is what I downloaded from the web on these stories. So first of all, you've got paper disposable menus. That's a great idea because menus are something that everybody touches in a table service restaurant.
Yeah, I had thought about that for years because every time I touch one, I'd be like, okay, I need sanitizer now.
Well, and I guess I hadn't thought about it as much just because, we weren't dealing with viruses that were quite this dangerous as this one. Sure. I mean, the flu and things would come around every year, but they really just weren't. This one's obviously a lot more serious. Yeah. I think that's why everybody's kind of thinking twice about it. Encouraging takeout and online orders. We've gotten Texas Roadhouse a couple times, and I will say they do a great job. They're all wearing masks. We wear the mask up there to to drive up to the restaurant, and they have you stay in your car, and they have you take your food off a tray, so you're never touching anything the same as they are. And they even are encouraging at Texas Roadhouse pay by phone. So you click, they text you click the little link in the text that you get, and then you can go straight to a pay on your phone. So you're never even giving them your credit card or anything. Everything is as touchless as possible. I think all restaurants should be doing that.
Yeah, they'll probably do a lot of mobile ordering or all mobile ordering at Disney. Who knows?
Yeah, and definitely. So let me finish these here real quick. Touchless sanitizer at the entry. Yeah, I think there needs to be sanitizer it says at every table. And people, obviously should bring their own sanitizer, but you can't count on that. So they want to have it everywhere. Phase 1 and 2, again, people over 65 stay home. At the entry needs to be visible in plain sight to give people a reminder. Hey, sanitize. Even if they didn't touch a door handle to come in, still, who knows where your hands were, or even if they sneezed before they came in, sanitize your hands before you come in, especially to a place that's going to serve food. All employees go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I wonder too if it'll be like a cruise ship where they'll have a cast member standing there like, okay, you need to sanitize to everybody,
They might. They actually might.
Cruise ships. Yeah.
At Magic Kingdom, the last day we went, they had a cast member there actually handing out sanitizer, just little squirts of sanitizer. And I think part of that was too, they didn't want people I think they had problems with people actually taking the sanitizer because, it was hard.
No.
At first, it's actually a little easier to find in the stores now, but at first it was impossible to find in the stores. And so people were just putting the sanitizer in their backpacks. So that's,
man.
I think if they get dispensers, like my school actually right towards the end got dispensers of hand sanitizer that were touchless. So you can't take those gigantic containers out of those. They're locked up. Yeah. So I think that's more what Disney needs to do and get all these, any restaurant, get those that are mounted to the wall or somewhere where you can't just take the bottle and put it in your bag, so I think that's
for sure
something to think about because obviously that's not fair to everybody else. They need it too. So
right. Well, and just like somebody just standing there to remind people, because some people are like, I don't need it.
Right. That's the other thing. It's kind of like you watch somebody walk out of the restroom and they didn't wash their hands and you're like, you should wash your hands. So I think the cast members need to make sure that they are reminding people. Obviously some people may still not, but at least you're getting as many people as possible. Temperature checks again for staff. And that's good because I think, again, like you said, you just don't want people coming into work you know, when they're sick. And also the other thing I think that should be mandated, and this is not in here, but they need to be giving paid sick time to those people so that they are not worried about not making money and they
You're
can
right.
stay home and get well. I think there's all those things need to be happening. So
Yep, I agree.
employees with flu-like symptoms advised to stay home. Again, doors to be wiped regularly. Handles, everything should be wiped. Staff behind counters must wear gloves. I think they do that a lot of times anyway. At least people handling food, but I think everybody wearing gloves, including the cashiers, because they're touching money and credit cards and everything. Bartenders sanitize hands after making each drink. That's a good idea. Seated tables to be 6 feet apart. Limit restaurant to 50% and then 75% at phase 2. So anything in there stand out to you besides what we already talked about?
I mean, I like, you know, they're all great. The one that stood out to me the most is, you know, restaurants at 50% capacity, which is great. I mean, because that's the only way they're going to get people separated, you know, 6 feet apart. But think about how busy, you know, some of those fast food restaurants are at Disney. I mean, I know it'll be to half capacity too, so I guess that'll help. But I don't know. It's just going to be interesting to see all of this happen.
Well,
some people just go into the restaurants to cool off too in the summer because it's so hot. So I wonder if they're going to allow that too. I don't know.
I don't think they will, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I think they're not going to be able to. So, you know, there's that. And I think there's also, you know, there can be lines to get into the restaurants if they're at capacity. But that may be why limiting the, like you said, the whole park attendance to 50% is good. Like if you go into a store now, we drove by Target the other day in the area, and we decided not to go in because there was a line out the door. Everybody was spaced 6 feet apart, but Target's limited their capacity. And so what you do is you have to stand outside. They've got security there, and they've got everybody, they've got tape, but they've also, people are just kind of doing it on their own, which is good. But think about, say, Harbor House. You could say, okay, you're lined up along the side of the building 6 feet apart, and the cast members calling people in one at a time. So, you know, so I don't know. I mean, I can see that. Again, this is not going to be easy, but I think it's good that there's some guidelines in place. Let's, any other that stood out to you before we go on to the next topic?
No, I mean, the only thing I was just thinking about with the whole food thing, I mean, it might be smart to bring your own food too, because it might be hard getting into some of these fast food restaurants. So I don't know, just be prepared, I guess.
Well, and the outdoor vendors, I think, might help as well. And people are going to have to space
true.
6 feet apart, but maybe go grab a hot dog might work as well. You know, at one of the little outdoor vendors, or a turkey leg, that might be good as well. So something to think about. Guest temperature check. That has been actually something that even Bob Iger himself mentioned in a magazine interview that he did just a few weeks ago. Now, these guidelines are saying that they have temperature checks mandatory for employees. I'm wondering, do you think that they're going to start requiring this for guests as well? Because there are businesses I've seen, like in Singapore, they're requiring temperature checks before you go in pretty much any public place, not just theme parks and stuff. So what do you think?
I think it's a good idea. I mean, for those people that, you know, are on vacation and they're like, I'm on vacation, I don't care if I'm sick, I'm going to go, you know, it would make me feel safer. Now, I do know there are people that don't have symptoms and they could be in the park as well, so that there's that. But I don't know, I just think it would help. What do you think?
I think it's a good idea too. Obviously, you know, you're going to have people, and somebody's listening right now probably saying, well, a lot of people with this COVID-19 are sick and don't show symptoms. So that doesn't take care of that. And there's honestly no way to take care of that except for testing everybody that comes in. And I just don't think that's feasible. Like actually doing a COVID-19 test for everybody that comes in. Maybe when the technology gets better, maybe they'll have like a 15-minute test. But can you imagine a waiting room full of people getting into the park that are all being tested? I just don't think there's any way it would make it way safer. But I don't think it's feasible.
Yeah. No,
so, so I think there's just going to be a certain amount of risk involved in going to the parks, and that is just what it is. And I think families are going to have to judge whether that's worth it to them or not. And of course, if your family, you know, has somebody immunocompromised or older or has pre-existing conditions, obviously you're going to want to avoid the parks for a while.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's each family's decision, but I think most health experts would recommend that.
Yeah.
So temperature check is one thing. You know, we both think it's a good idea. I think that it's just going to be up to Disney and Universal and even SeaWorld to see if they want to go through with that or not. It would probably be either before or after security when they would do that, I would think.
And that will back up lines as well. So it's going to be harder to get into the parks. So that's another thing to think about. But if it makes guests feel safer, I don't know. I think it's worth it.
Yeah, at least it would stop anybody with the temperature from coming in. That would be, it wouldn't stop everything, but it would at least make it better.
Yeah.
And masks required for guests. Obviously, they've talked about that a lot.
Mhm.
I think a lot of guests will voluntarily wear masks, don't you?
Yes, even though I know it's going to be super hot, I'm going to wear one just because I will feel safer. The problem is the people that do have it are the ones that need to be wearing it. So that's why I hope they do require it, because then, you'll have less of a chance of getting sick. So at least for the first several months, I think they should require it.
I do too. It's going to be hard. Obviously, at a restaurant, you have to take your mask off to eat. We talked about that. You and I've talked about that before. So I think
Yeah.
it's going to be hard. I think the mask would really help, even the cloth masks. Like you
Mhm.
said, it's really more important for the person if they are, contagious, if they do have the virus or any virus, they're the ones that need the masks on. Otherwise, unless you've got an N95 mask, it doesn't really protect you as much. So, it'll be interesting to see. Obviously, the N95 masks need to go to healthcare workers right now, and unless they get to the point where they've got enough masks and they're able to get N95 masks for people going in, then but
Yeah.
I just don't see a situation where they would have enough to do that.
No, I
So,
don't think so either.
you know, they would probably put Mickey. They're probably. There's been a lot of speculation they're going to have like Mickey Mouse face masks to buy at the front of the park.
I bet they will start selling them actually, because I know they sell them in Tokyo. I'm pretty sure they sell them in Shanghai and Hong Kong. So I bet you they will.
Well, this is a big culture shift for Americans because,
Mhm.
over in the Asian cultures in Japan and in China, they, especially after the first SARS, they got kind of used to having masks on at different points in time. And
Mhm.
it's really, I think it's helped them at some point to do that.
Yeah.
But in our culture, it hasn't really been that common up until right now.
Yep, you're
So.
exactly right. Yeah, it's different for us, but if it helps, I think we should all wear them.
Absolutely. So we've got that. And then the other thing is Florida residents only. There's been a talk about having it just open for Florida residents. That is a possibility. I think the biggest benefit to that is if they decide they're at capacity and you live in the area, or even if you live an hour away, you can just go back home. And yeah, it's a pain, but it's also not like somebody who came from Indiana or New York or something.
Yep, I agree.
So
And
that's
that'll help with like you said, with the capacity level. They won't have a ton of people here not being able to get in to the park, or like you said, having to go back home to their other state or just go back to the hotel. But it'll also help with you know it'll just be Florida people, so people won't be bringing it from other states as well, at least for the first several months.
Right. So I think that's the biggest thing. I was going to mention that. I'm glad you did, because I think keeping travel between states down, and again, not like closing anything, but just discouraging people from coming from out of state for a little while might not be a
Mhm.
bad thing, because honestly, Central Florida hasn't done that bad. I think there were
Mhm.
just over 1,000 cases in Orlando, maybe 1,200, and it's decreased quite rapidly, whereas places like New York have been hit really, really hard. So
Mhm.
obviously you've got a lot of people from New York who would like to come down, but is opening the floodgates for everybody, even if it's a 50% capacity. It might be safer to start with locals, but who knows what they'll actually do.
Yeah. I
So
wonder.
So it is interesting to think about. And again, these are all just things we've thought about. We don't have the answers, but we do, there are things to discuss. Please leave a comment. Let us know what you think. Obviously, I know a lot of people are going to have opinions about this. It's definitely can be a dangerous situation. We all love our parks. I also think there's no way they can stay closed till 2021, because I think the financial burden on everybody will be too heavy. There are also a lot of Central Florida businesses that rely on the parks that are not Disney related, but they're, maybe hotels that are not Disney owned. There are restaurants that are not Disney owned. There are shops in Disney Springs. There are actually shops in Disney Springs, believe it or not, that are owned by individual families.
Yep.
So there are things that I think that people are being affected too, just besides even the CMs. And, so I think that obviously the CMs would like to get back to work and things like that. So I think, just leaving it close to 2021 would probably cause a lot of damage to a lot of financial situations, and obviously safety first, but it's hard to weigh both the pros and cons. What do you think?
No, I feel the same. I mean, yeah, if they wait until 2021, it's really going to hurt a lot of people. Not only the people that want to go to Disney, but like you said, the employees. There's so many people that work for Disney, or like you said, that their businesses rely on Disney because they're so close to Disney, and or on Disney property. Yeah, but a lot of people rely on Disney.
Well, And I think too that, it's almost like, remember Bill Nye the Science Guy in the Ellen's Energy Adventure ride? He said there are no easy answers. I think that's really, I kept hearing his voice in my head. There really are no easy answers to this. And I think it's important to do this very, very cautiously. They might just open Disney Springs first for a little while and really say, okay, cap the number of people that can be in each store and encourage everybody to maintain, 6 feet distance outside and things like that, and then see how it goes. And if that goes okay, maybe then open one park.
Yeah.
So,
Josh and I have talked about this. We're pretty sure that, Magic Kingdom will probably be the first park they open, and Epcot will probably be the last. I mean, just because Magic is, easier to run and maintain and staff. So.
Yeah, well, the Epcot requires and has a lot of college program cast members who all have been unfortunately sent home, and overseas cast members as well that are a part of the cultural exchange program. And so they've all been sent home as well for safety reasons. So, it would take a while to get everybody back. And I think, and especially when they might not even be allowed to travel at this point.
Yeah, that's true.
The other option is resort guests and annual pass holders only. That would cut down the numbers as well, and that would see the resorts opening and maybe on a limited basis. So that's an idea, but it might be, I'm looking at this and maybe seeing phase 1 Florida residents only, phase 2 resort guests and annual pass holders, or phase 2 resort guests and Florida residents. However you do it, you could theoretically stair step it that way if you wanted to.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Well, and I wonder if they'll not even open all the resorts. They'll spread that out as well. Like they'll have a few moderate hotels. They'll have a few,
a couple of each kind.
Yep. I wonder.
Okay. I think you're right. And parade and fireworks shows, those are places where it's very difficult to social distance. So again, we mentioned earlier, I think there's been a lot of speculation that those are going to be modified or shut down completely. It will save money to not have the fireworks as well. Obviously, as much as we love it, if you're only getting 50% capacity and they're not going to be obviously making as much, and plus they've lost so much already. But really, like I said, the biggest concern is just people are not going to be able to stand far enough apart.
Yeah. I mean, the only one I could see maybe that they would do would be, Epcot, because, it's over the water and not as many. I mean, people still group up a little bit, I guess. But if it's not open, then.
Right. That's true. I mean, it'll be interesting to see what happens. That's true. Epcot could be the one that might have a fireworks show, could theoretically be possible. I could almost see like little tape lines all around World Showcase Lagoon so that it's, 6 feet apart for each group. But so we'll see, excuse me. But the other one is Haunted Mansion and other pre-shows. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So Josh and I were talking about this. So there are a lot of rides like Haunted Mansion that have a pre-show, before you go on to the ride. And the pre-shows they usually put you in there, like sardines, like pretty close together. And of course, the Haunted Mansion, they tell you to, drag your bodies to the center of the room so you're more close together. So we're just thinking that they might do away with a lot of these pre-shows, and where you'll just directly go to the ride. It will, affect the ride a little bit for the people that have not been on these rides before. But for the people that have been on it before, it won't be as big of a deal. But I don't know, for me, I would feel safer because being in a small little room like that right now doesn't seem like much fun. Like, I don't want to do that. So, and that would affect a lot of rides like Haunted Mansion, Dinosaur, there's Flight of Passage. So a lot of rides have these pre-shows. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot to think about. It absolutely is a lot to think about. And I think, too, the other thing to think about, too, is, people probably, if they've never been to the parks before, probably should, if they're modified the way we think they're going to be, probably should consider maybe waiting until things are more back to normal. That would be the advice I would give to anybody. I mean, obviously, everybody needs to make their own choices. But if I've never been to Disney World before, I'm not sure that this would be the time on this type of a modified opening that I would choose to go for the first time. Yes, the crowds are going to be down, which will be good. But if you're going to see Haunted Mansion for the first time without the stretch room, I don't know. That's just it's not quite an authentic experience. Yes, of course, safety first again, 100%. But you have to then weigh the pros and cons as a guest. Is it worth, going your first time under those circumstances? I would say if it were me and I'd never been there before, I would wait until it was more normal.
Yeah, no, I'm 100% with you. Plus, I mean, not just the pre-shows. Let's say the fireworks and the parades are canceled, and you've never seen them before. I mean, those are amazing, and you don't want to miss out on those. So, I mean,
it's a big part of the experience.
It is. Yeah, I would definitely, if this is your first time, if it were me, I would wait for sure.
For sure. Awesome. Yeah. So, um, just to wrap up here, thank you for staying with us. I feel like, we really have had a lot to talk about here, and a lot of it's speculation, but it was nice to have the guidelines there to discuss and kind of ponder. Again, we've held off on making this video because we wanted to have some concrete things to talk about, moreover than just speculation. But let us know what you think. Obviously, there's a lot of speculation from everybody. These are the things we've been thinking about and talking about a lot over the last couple of weeks, but let us know what you think. And let us know what additional guidelines, if any, you think Disney will reinstate or will put into place. And then also if Universal and Disney are going to be different. One thing we didn't talk about was virtual queuing. Just coming to my mind a little bit. They've already said, Universal has said, I think, at least there's been rumors that they will use their virtual queuing system for almost every ride. Which would mean just get a time and come back when it's time, and the lines would be much, much shorter at that point. Kind of like they do for the Jimmy Fallon ride right now.
Yeah, no, you're right. And Rise of the Resistance, they do it there. So.
Right. I mean, still, you've got crowds and lines though at Rise, so it would be. So I don't know, that might, but the virtual queuing also might keep, since the lines are longer in length, it might keep the lines from spilling out into the street too, because then you've got, okay, this is your time, and this is the only queue that we're going to fill up, and so they don't start calling the next people for the virtual queue unless the line has moved a significant amount to where they can get people in and keep the social distancing in effect. So that might be a way for them to control the lines a little bit using the virtual queue.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great idea. I really think they should probably put that in Disney, Universal. And I've also heard too that Disney is going to be what a lot of the theme parks follow. The guidelines that they're going to kind of follow. Just because Disney is the biggest theme park, Universal's not far behind, of course. But a lot of people are going to model after what Disney does.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that, so Disney is going to be kind of creating the blueprint. They've been really quiet about it. And I think it's good because I think, yes, of course, people are going to speculate like we are, but I think it's important for them not to announce anything until they're 100% sure what they want to do. And honestly, I think they're taking some things day by day. If a new report comes out from the CDC that says something different than what we're finding out before, if a new treatment comes out, if anything changes that we don't know about right now, Disney doesn't have a crystal ball any more than you and I do, so something might come out at some point, or new research might show something different about the virus that we don't already know that would change their decision. So I think they're going to have to take it, maybe make the best plans they can, and then, even if, say, they're looking at, okay, opening in the middle of June or something, once they get close to that point, if CDC or if the news says something different, if the scientists are saying something different, they may have to reevaluate, and they may have to tell people park opening subject to conditions at the time.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. I mean, I thought of that as well. Like, say they pick a date, like you said, mid-June, and for some reason things have gotten worse. They definitely are going to change that. So, yeah, so it's all speculation, and it's a day-by-day thing. So.
Absolutely. So we're all excited about it. Kind of probably a little nervous about it just because, obviously we want to go back to the parks. It's going to be at some point, you're going to have maybe a little bit of trepidation and fear about going at some point, but at some point too, once things do get to be more safe, we're going to have to train ourselves to go out and train ourselves to use these sanitary procedures, maybe differently than we're used to, but still go out and be able to do things, that we enjoy and being able to support these businesses as well.
No, you're right. So. It's definitely going to be different. I mean, since we've been home for over a month,
that's almost a month and a half now.
Is it a month and a half? Yeah, Disney's been closed for about a month and a half, and we're gonna have to retrain the way we think and the way we do things, and but it's for the best, just to keep everybody safe for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So anyway, again, leave us a comment. Let us know what you think about any and all of these things. We kind of did the stream of consciousness, so apologies if we said anything wrong. I think we got most of the facts correct, but apologies ahead of time if anything's wrong. We just wanted to kind of discuss the facts, but also our feelings and our thoughts about the facts. So we hope you enjoyed. We will see you on the next video, and until then, stay safe, and just keep on enjoying time with your family at home.
Yeah. Yep. Stay safe, everybody.
Also, be sure to check out our sponsors, MickeyBlog.com and MickeyTravels.com, for the best in free Disney vacation planning advice. Go check out MickeyTravels.com to book your next trip to Disney. Also,
check out Victor Naraki. He is a realtor here in Central Florida. If you've ever dreamed about living near the magic, Check them out at celebratingflorida.com or facebook.com/NarkiRealtor. Make sure you tell them Resort to You One sent you.
So for now, have a great big beautiful tomorrow.
Bye-bye.
Now that you've finished watching this video, be sure that you're subscribed so that you can get all of the latest updates. Also, check out some other great videos on our channel. Have a great big beautiful tomorrow. Bye-bye.